What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to put this in the top of the show. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com to get your ex-drinking buddy merch. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, we're coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
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 What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, then later on reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with someone and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, originally from the dirty South, Mr. Max Fine.
Hey. I love that you call it the program, dude.
Yeah.
That's great. Does anybody get that?
No, I don't
Perfect.
think so.
That's fantastic, dude. That's for us, man. And I appreciate it.
I lied. TJ Francis got it.
Perfect. As long as one person gets it.
TJ Francis actually calls his show the TJ Francis program after Nick Saban, the way he says program.
Yeah. That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
So tell everybody, first of all, plug everything up front, all your social media, everything like that.
Instagram, Twitter, it's MaxFine_. Easy, real easy.
Yep.
I have a podcast called In the Minivan. So if you just search on Instagram, on Twitter, we're not putting up a ton of video stuff, but In the Minivan every Tuesday, wherever you get podcasts. When's this coming out?
This is going to come out Monday.
Okay. If you're in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, January 12th or 13th, I'll be at Wisecrackers.
There you go.
There
Boom,
it is.
baby.
I like doing it before I get to talk because this way nobody knows if I suck shit yet.
Well, yeah, I always do it at the front end and the back end and I learned that from Ryan Sickler.
Perfect.
The Crab Feast back in the day with him and Jay Larson. They used to always promote everything up front because podcasts, especially even if it's just an hour, people get distracted. You start doing stuff around the house, and then when they throw in their tags at the end, it's like, oh, well, they're like,
the fuck are
nobody's
you?
listening.
Yeah.
And so I always have everyone do it at the front, so in that way they're like, all right. And then later, if they like the episode and stuff, this probably happens to you within the minivan, but how many times do people go like, hey, love the podcast, and their only point of reference is the clips that you put up
dude,
randomly?
I just assume that nobody listens to the whole thing.
No, I do too, but it's so funny when people are like, oh, I love the podcast, because I put... For the clips that I put up, it's normally one where it'll make me laugh.
Right,
because I'm
right.
always like, oh, that's it's a comedy podcast. But there's so much more stuff that like I get into with people that I obviously won't put up on the clip because it'll get flagged.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, oh, you listened to that episode? What did you think about this? And they go, oh, well, I just saw what you put up. And I go, oh, so you just watched a 12-second clip.
Dude, that's how I feel everybody consumes these now. I feel like I'm the only person, because I can't be on Instagram too much. It breaks my brain. I can't be on Twitter or I lose all sense of self.
I don't even do Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, at all.
It's my favorite one of the social medias, but I'm also like...
Is it really?
Yeah, dude, because I call it my idiot journal, where it's just like, I'll just post shit and I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Where it's like Instagram's like, I have to think about this. I have to curate it.
Yeah.
And I don't like that and I hate it. So I have like blockers on Instagram now.
Do you really?
Yeah, I can only get on like twice a day.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, man.
So with Instagram, and I've talked about, the listeners know, but I railed against social media because I was obviously, we're around, I think we're around the same age because I'm 34. I think you're a little
31,
younger than me.
yeah.
But we came up in a time where we were primed to like just slip right in to social media.
Yeah.
And I resisted. I was like, this is, because I started comedy in 2009. I was like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is dumb. And now... Fast forward, like Hannah Burner puts me on a couple TikToks, and then I'm getting hundreds of followers, and I'm literally not posting anything. And I go, oh, maybe there's something to
There's
this
definitely
social media
something to it. I just refuse to learn. And it's not even about like indignation or anything. I'm just like, I'm at an age now where I'm like, I don't have time to think about it.
It's so much. The episode just came out recently of my show, and it took me an extra 2 days to get the clip up because it takes an hour.
Takes
because
forever.
now I love doing it here at Gotham Production because we get the camera, we've got the whole setup, it's professional. But now that's not enough.
Right.
That's not enough for the clip, just you and I talking. Now I have to like double it up, zoom in, make it a reel, put subtitles, and I'm like, Can't you just watch the fucking clip?
No, dude. Beyond that, can't you just listen to the fucking podcast?
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be. I don't want you to watch the clip. I want you to hear the whole thing.
Exactly.
Put it into
That's a
context and
better way,
understand
yeah.
it. But nobody listens. I'm the only person that I'm like, I can't watch clips. I just can't do it because it breaks my brain and I'll be on there for 4 hours at a time and I can't
just
do it.
scrolling through.
Yeah, so I still listen to podcasts and I'm like, this is nice.
I'm the
This is
same way.
pleasant.
I actually enjoy like the podcasts that I have. Like I listen to a couple of them that I've been listening to for 10 years.
Yeah.
And like Sickler, him and Matt Fulcher, my co-host of The Power of How, they started the Crap Feast together like 12 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And then, some things happened and then Ryan Sickler ended up doing it with Jay Larson. But I've been listening to Sickler for over a decade.
Right.
So it's like those are like obviously now doing comedy, moving to New York, and I've met a lot of these people in person and now I'm friends with some of them. But it's like I like listening to those shows. It's like watching your favorite TV. Like it's comforting.
Right. There are a few podcasts that I listen to because it's friends of mine, and I'll be like, all right, I'll listen to this just because it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But as soon as I meet somebody that like I listen to them on a podcast, I stop listening to the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. I don't. There's still a part of me that's like, yeah, it's cool. I like the whole like comedy. You meet your heroes. You work with your heroes. It's very cool. But there are a few.
It
where
can
I'm like,
suck sometimes.
yeah, even if especially if they're cool people, the last thing I want to do then is be like, fuck, I'll put you in my ears every morning.
Yeah.
I'll listen to you and I'll just like reminisce about the time that I met them.
So it's so funny you say that. This is something that Matt Fulcheron and I have talked about quite a bit because I learned about him through Segura, who I learned about through Jay Moore 12 years ago.
Sure.
He was on the second episode of More Stories. It was him and Kreischer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who? Because they were opening for him at the time. And I go, this Tom guy's hilarious. So then I consumed everything Tom. And then him and Christina had their podcast. So I started listening to that. And that's how I found Matt. And then Matt and I, like, this is back when Tom was still doing like the Comedy Zone.
Sure. Oh,
so like he would like respond back to, like, we would direct message each other back and forth.
Right.
And then, Tom explodes and blows up into this huge, what he is now, which is like a huge force in comedy. But it's just so funny to me because it's like, I feel like, and I still listen to, like when Matt had a podcast before we started ours together with Daniel Torado, I was still listening to Matt's.
Mm-hmm.
So it is that weird thing where it blurs kind of this line of how close you really are to the person. And that's something that I've gotten in trouble with. Not trouble, but
no, but it's hard not to.
I go to a show and I go to like meet Tom after, because again, Comedy Zone, he's doing meet and greets. This is 2011, 12. So I go to talk to him after, and I'm like referencing stuff from the podcast, which now seems like, oh yeah, you would do that. But in my head, I'm talking to him like we're boys, like we're Florida boys. And like this is the first time he's met
because
me.
in your head you are.
Yeah.
And
you forget that it's one-sided.
It's so fucking hard to remember that, dude. It's so hard, especially because like podcasting, I think like by default opens you up to being like confessional and honest with yourself. Because if you do it every week, you run out of shit to talk about unless you're being honest.
The listeners know.
Yeah, of course. So it's like, if you put yourself out there enough and people do listen to it, they know who the fuck you are, man. And it's terrifying.
It is. And it's actually also,
Sorry, I'm cursing so much.
No, curse away.
All right.
It's one of those things, and I say this all the time, and you'll probably know the quote, but Kinane Kinane says, I don't need everybody. I just need enough to fill a room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my whole mindset especially when it comes to the podcast, because I've been told so often, like I'll have friends come to a show and they'll bring their significant other or their buddies. And my friends will go, dude, that was hilarious. You killed it. And then I'll turn to their friends or their significant others and they'll go, hi, you just seem like you were really intense up there. And I go, oh yeah, they don't know me.
Right.
They don't get the joke that it's funny that I'm being intense because I'm a very like, almost feminine, eccentric kind of guy. So it's funny when I like scream because I'm like, but they don't get that because they don't know me.
It's hard, dude.
But that's why I love the podcast, because I'm like, oh, everyone who because we've got almost 10,000 listeners, so I'm like, oh, everyone who listens,
they know who you are.
They know me, and they get it. And that's also why I'm doing the one man show, because I have had several comics who comedy's their life. That's what they do is comedy, and they've seen my set and they go, hey man, that's not really like a club. That's like a rock venue kind of a story.
Sure.
Because I talk about like trying to kill myself and like jumping off a balcony when I was wasted and stabbing myself in the stomach. When I wanted an ex to come visit, I was like, oh, she's not going to drive up here. Maybe if I say I got stabbed, she'll come see me.
Oh, now we're in my wheelhouse, man. I didn't do that, but I love the mentality.
Yeah,
man.
it was like, I would say it on stage. I'd be like, so I liared myself like Jim Carrey, and I just beat the shit out of myself.
Right.
And then we ended up, she actually didn't come to visit. She broke up with me, which is true.
Yeah.
She was like, you're a crazy person.
Right.
But I told that story, and then comics would come up and they go, you can't, like, you can do whatever you want, but I would advise against telling those stories. So then it mutated into the one-man show that I'm doing now. Get your tickets now at BrennanTComedy.com.
Hell yeah.
But I'm doing a one-man show in January.
That's amazing.
And I was like, oh, we were talking about the Amex earlier. I was like, I'll just fund it myself.
Dude, I mean, good
Slam
for
it
you.
on the
Congrats.
table.
I love the drive. I love the
such a stupid idea.
Yeah. Oh, it's dumb as shit. But I'm hoping for the best, man.
It was so expensive.
That's taking a gamble on yourself.
You
And if
have
it doesn't
to.
pay off, you can move back to Florida.
Yeah, right?
It's
I can
easy.
always.
There's always Florida.
Yes.
Always there.
Always there. And well, at least for now.
For now. Yeah. For like the next 5 years, you can always go back to Florida, dude.
I wanted to bring that up. Good transition. You're a pro.
Oh.
You are from the South
Yeah,
as well.
I'm from Atlanta.
Yes. And we
Yes.
had Michael Rowland on. Well, you're one of your best friends in the
Yep.
world. And we talked to him about how he knows you and stuff. And so I wanted to get kind of your take on how you got into comedy, because Michael told us about his situation where he went to LA and that's where he
Yeah.
started. And then he came back to Atlanta and you kind of showed him the ropes and showed him around when he moved
Yeah.
back. But how did you end up doing comedy?
So I always loved comedy, but I never thought you could just do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I always ask this question because that's a common answer. Did you love stand-up or did you love comedy like movies and TV?
I like stand-up and I like sketch.
Okay.
And I was kind of tapped into the improv scene
We're
a little
the
bit.
purists.
Yeah, kind
People
of.
are like,
but
oh, I liked funny movies. And I go, everybody likes funny movies.
I mean, I do. It's just like I like stand-up. I liked sketch and improv because like I knew people that were in improv.
Yeah.
Just tangentially.
And how old were you like when you kind of discovered all this? Like when you found stand-up?
Oh, dude, like in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, because Michael and I went to high school together.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have very vivid memories.
This is the Scotland story that you gave me, right? That's the
Oh,
same one. That's
did
the
he
one,
talk
right?
about it?
Yeah.
He did? Oh,
That's
that
so.
motherfucker.
I want to make sure. Yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah,
now
okay.
you're gonna get a much different. I don't know what he said, but good. I'm
gonna
glad
get the
he brought
real
it up.
version
I'm very
now.
happy he brought it up because now I can use his name. But in high school. We went to the same high school and we worked together, and I have like very vivid memories of him picking me up when we were like 16 years old to go to work at Dunkin' Donuts and listening to like Mike Birbiglia albums on the way.
Yeah.
And I never thought it was something that you can just do.
This is so crazy too, because he told the story about how he got into stand-up and how he would listen to it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's so cool how that, because I'm obsessed with stories and how people get where they are.
Yeah.
And that's so cool to me that by him like driving you around, or you
Totally.
guys driving together, you listen to comedy, and now you're both like comics in New York City.
Yeah.
Like that's so like just listening to it on the radio, like or on Pandora or Spotify
Well, we had
or
like
whatever.
burned CDs.
Yeah,
so
that's-
that was the thing. We would like torrent them or whatever.
Yeah,
or, like
yeah.
go on LimeWire.
LimeWire!
Yeah. Dude, I've stolen so much comedy. I've stolen so much, not just in my act, but I've also stolen so much comedy from people
I
that
want to
like.
make that the title, but there's no way
Please,
we can
why
make that
not?
the
Who
title.
cares,
I've
dude?
stolen so much comedy.
You could totally use it. But yeah, man, like I used to go and download albums and shit, burn them, or Michael would do it, and we would just listen on drives and shit, and it rocked.
Yeah.
And then he goes off to college. I was living in a place like this old warehouse loft. And
Fuck yeah.
dude, it was the best. Now I paid $600 a month for that place then. That was forever ago. It's now going for like $5,000. That
Oh, yeah.
like Atlanta's totally different.
So when this is just to keep the through line going. When did you? So you guys are listening to this in high
So,
school. That's
yeah.
kind of where you get introduced, and then he goes off to college when
Right.
you graduate high school, and you decide I'm just going to stay in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, he went to college. I kind of didn't.
Okay.
To bring it to drinking, like when I was 17, I wound up in my first treatment center.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
Talk
yeah.
about that.
So Halloween weekend going into my 17th birthday. My birthday is November 1st.
Okay.
And I got wasted at a party. Not a
when
big
did you
deal.
start drinking? Like in high school? like
Yeah,
here
like
and there.
14,
Okay.
13. Like, I was smoking pot before I was drinking. That was the big
happens so often.
Yeah, dude. Well, my parents
I come from a
smoked pot.
drinking fan. Okay.
That's
I come
the
from
difference.
A drinking family
right,
where
right,
it's like-
right. And so I don't know, like 14, like I really start going in on
Yeah.
it. I come home, I'm wasted. It's my birthday. I remember like my dad being like, "Look, I'm going to give you a pass on being drunk because it's your birthday. I'm not letting you drive my car." Because that was my whole angle. I was like, I'm going to come home, I'm going to get the car, and I'm going to go back out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, dude, I was wasted. And
Yeah.
my dad's like, "You're not taking the car." I punched a wall, hit a stud, broke my wrist.
Oh my god.
And I'm drunk, so I can't clearly communicate what's happening to anybody. And my dad comes up, he's grabbing my wrist, does not realize that I've broken.
Shattered.
Yeah, dude. He's grabbing, and I'm screaming at him. My mom calls the police. The police are in my parents' house, just like, what the fuck is going on? And because the police are there and there's a medical issue, legally they have to call an ambulance.
Yeah.
Ambulance comes. I go to the hospital. I get a cast or whatever. My parents are basically like, you can go into a treatment center or you can move out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that was the ultimatum.
Yeah. So I go to an outpatient treatment center.
How many days a week?
5.
Okay.
So we're there. They do a piss test, and I had hydrocodone in my system because of my broken
Because
wrist.
you like to party. Oh,
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Well, at that point, it wasn't even about pills.
Yeah.
That came later. And so I'm just like, yeah, dog, I had to pace myself. And so I'm drunk. I'm always drunk, like every week. I was like the big partier in
Yeah.
high school that didn't have the big group. It was me, Michael, and we had an older friend that we hung out with every day.
Mhm.
So they decide I'm a drug addict because of the hydrocodone stuff.
So they don't even know you. They just give you that first
Yes.
test when you get there, and they're like, "Oh, he's a drug addict."
Totally. And because I'm 17, I can't go into an adult unit.
Yeah.
So it's me and a bunch of like 12-year-old kids. And I'm having the time. Because when you're like 17 and it's all children, you really are like king shit.
You're
at
the
turning
alpha,
up.
yeah.
Yeah. I was buying cigarettes for kids.
Fuck yeah, you were.
Yeah, it was cool as hell, dude. I was so fucking popular in this place. And so they start sending me to meetings and shit. Hey, can we talk about meetings on the... Is that
Yeah.
cool? Yeah, all right. They start sending me to meetings and all that, and my whole mentality is like, this is not something I'm going to stick with.
Yeah.
So I'm drunk the entire time. I'm lying to my sponsor. Like, I'm going...
Oh, so you got like a sponsor and everything.
Dude, I was picking up chips. I was like...
you son of a bitch.
Yeah, dog. I like look back on it with a lot of regret. And I've made my amends.
Well,
but
it's so funny you say that because... Well, we talk because the whole rule is you don't talk about directly the people you see or the things that you hear directly. I'm never going to be like, oh, Max Fine said this in a meeting, but we do talk. AA is the reason I'm sober.
Totally.
Because I had tried a million other things, but it's interesting because when I was going to meetings, fucked up because I did that. Because I'm an alcoholic.
Everybody does. Yeah.
That's the thing, man. Like the one beef I have is now it's so readily available, which is great. But then there are some people who are like, oh, I got drunk and texted my ex. I must be an alcoholic. And I go, we're not the same.
It's not the same thing, dude.
We're not the
Yeah.
same. So then sometimes you'd go to meetings and it's supposed to be judgment free. And then people would be like, Brennan relapsed again. And I'm like, we're not the same.
Yeah, dog. You got drunk and made a mistake, and that's fine. And
I'm an alcoholic.
Right. You're going to do it again. I've driven cars into walls that are never going to, like, I've done a lot of shit that I can't take back.
Yeah.
You can very much tell your ex,
My bad.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
So it was so interesting though because I would go to meetings sometimes wasted.
yeah.
But the dynamic of like we both did the same thing, but you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I didn't fucking care. And I was like in the back of the room, like, they know I'm wasted, like
Dude.
crying to myself. And you're like, yeah, what's up, guys? I'm fucked up.
Well, I really thought I was playing it off. And I was, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't be fucked up in meetings.
Yeah.
That was my big thing. It's like, if I'm going to like tackle this and really lie like I wanted to lie, and that
What's
was...
the Dane joke? I'm just gonna bash my way through this with lies.
So I used to do this shit where I would go sober to a meeting. We'd go out for like Mexican food afterwards. And then I'd go to my buddy's apartment with Michael or whatever, and I'd just party and smoke pot and drink.
Yeah.
And then I'd come back the next day like, I'm glad I went home last night. I meditated.
Day 27, here we
hit
go.
the knees, dude. I hit the knees. I said my prayers, and it's...
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, dog. And then I had a sponsor at the time and I was like 17 and a half at this point or whatever. He's like, I don't think you're an alcoholic. And I was like, that's what I needed to hear.
Here we go. Ding,
And-
ding, 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 ding.
And I kind of went back out and didn't lie about it until I was like 23 when I went back to AA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you go to the rehab or the outpatient, you're like king shit.
Yes.
How long does that last? Like what happens? So how long do you go there for? And then when do you have to go into meetings?
That's right. Okay. So they put me in meetings immediately.
Okay.
That was quick. But I was there for about 2 weeks, and I'm realizing like, fuck, dude, I'm missing like 2 weeks of my junior year of high school right now. And I can really milk this into 3 or 4 if I stick around.
Yeah.
So I would kind of like push the whatever counselors were like, no, I think I need to be here another week and shit. What I do, you don't have forethought in that moment, though.
Oh, because you're not going to school at all.
No.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, so I'm just
I
like...
thought you were saying you were missing it, like you regret, like I want to be back in school.
No,
with my
no.
friends.
I was trying to get out of school.
Okay, yeah.
And so I keep pushing this, and I don't think to myself, like, oh, well, you're just going to fail a year of high school. It's
You
what's
don't.
gonna
Oh
happen.
my God, that wouldn't even cross my mind.
Not at all.
Because it's a medical leave.
Right. You don't think to yourself, well, there's no way this doesn't end in me just going into my senior year.
Yeah.
And at that time,
Especially, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Please.
especially in high school.
No.
Like, if you go to treatment in high school, there's something significantly wrong with the situation.
Right.
like we had people in high school that like, yeah, they party too hard or would show up to class drunk sometimes. And you're like, wow, these fucking guys.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're in a facility, like I would assume the administration and the teachers would be like, well, at least he's trying to like get it together.
They were
like,
cool, dude.
yeah.
There was a Facebook group started.
Yeah.
Dude, there was this whole like Save Max Fine Facebook group. And oh my God. It's like,
man.
that was the first time I truly felt like my decisions had really broken my parents was because this Facebook group gets started and my parents start getting calls like, what the fuck is going on with your kid?
Oh my
like,
God.
And
that
like,
looks bad on them.
It looks bad on them. I feel really bad about that one.
It was a cool group,
It
though.
was pretty fun, dude. And by the end of it, so I was there for like 3 or 4 weeks.
You just kept being like, nah, I really think I need to be here.
And I
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, dog. And so at that point, they're like, all right, well, we got to kind of figure this out because you can't go back to school at this point. Like you've lost enough. And I don't want to go back to school.
Okay.
I find another high school to go to, this alternative school. It's like where all the fuck ups go and
Yeah.
shit. Like everybody's like, what'd you do? It feels like prison. You walk in like, what did you do to get in here?
Yep.
And someone's like, I threw a chair at a teacher or I like assaulted a kid or like whatever. And I'm like, I got drunk and punched a wall, dude.
Oh,
It's
you
like,
didn't play it up? Like,
no, I didn't want to. I was,
guys. You know, once I start, I just can't stop.
well, because it's like these kids aren't there for drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
They're there for like behavioral issues.
Violence.
And I'm just like, fucking.
They were born in the darkness.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, well, I was born with a disease. And you know, you can't like explain that to a bunch of I say 17-year-olds. We had some 22-year-olds in that high school, but like, yeah, it was a wild thing. So okay, that's what happened. So long story short, I don't graduate from high school, but I get into college.
Okay.
I got into Georgia State, which is downtown, and I just don't graduate. So I go straight to college. I'm there for a year before they're like, we don't have your diploma. I was like, I know, dude.
Oh
Crazy
my
story.
God, you played it off for a
Totally.
year?
Yeah, because until I had to drop a class, they didn't know.
Wow.
And so then they kicked me out of school.
That's the entire opening pilot of Community. That show.
I still have not seen Community.
In the pilot, they're like, he was like, I thought you went to Columbia Law School.
Yeah.
To the main character, and he goes, well, yeah, now I have to go to law school in America. Like this guy's been a practicing lawyer for years.
That rules.
But that's the whole premise of the show. Is
Yeah.
that's why he's really smart and like really quick and witty, but he has to go back to a community college because he
Yeah.
never technically graduated from a
dude.
So that's the same situation you're in.
Right. So, well, kind of. Yeah, I definitely had to get a GED instead of
Yeah.
a Juris Doctor.
Yeah.
And I come back, but in this time, so I'm like kind of just aimless. I'm working a restaurant job. I'm living in this warehouse. I'm like,
So what prompted the warehouse? Because this is a big.
This is really depressing.
Okay.
So
Lay it on us.
So my favorite bar in the world was this place called Jack's Pizza. You could get $1 beers, $3 shots, $4 pitchers, and you could smoke cigarettes inside.
Fuck yeah.
I went there every day from 17 to 23, maybe.
Yeah.
Because they would let me drink in there. I moved into this warehouse because it was 50 feet from Jack's Pizza.
Hell yeah.
And now it's
I
like.
thought you were going to say, like, my parents didn't want me at the house. Like, when you said depressing,
No, I mean, well, this was
oh.
like, I mean, at this point, I'm like 18, 19,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm living in this warehouse, stumbling home every night.
So when you come back,
Yeah.
because this is a big decision. So many people just like when they have to go home, they just decide to move back in with their parents. And you,
I did for a bit.
but you like when I moved back home before I went to college and after college,
Yeah.
both times I was like, I can't. I got to.
I didn't
want
wanna
to
be there. Yeah.
So you felt the same way.
Totally, dude.
That's why we're creative.
Yeah,
man.
dog.
We're
I mean,
different.
I moved into an apartment first that was really great. And it was fun. The lease ends though, and there's black mold. The thing is falling apart.
Yeah.
I find this warehouse that I wanted to live in just because I knew
And
it
it's
was
just
close.
you.
I had a roommate,
Okay.
but like I never saw him.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It's a huge warehouse.
huge, dude, like 1,200 square feet.
Dude,
It
that's
was
sick.
I didn't have windows, but it was crazy.
Who cares?
Dude,
You know what
I
Windows
didn't.
do? Windows just let in the
They
sun
wake
when you're
you
trying
up,
to sleep
dude.
and hang over.
I know, man. And it was a dungeon down there. I could sleep for hours and days. And so at this time,
So
Michael,
you're working in a restaurant.
Yes.
You're partying at the warehouse.
On one side of the street is the restaurant I work at. No, I'm sorry. At that time, dude, I was working at the Apple store.
Okay.
That's right. So I'm at the Apple store at this time. Michael comes home for like Thanksgiving, I think.
From LA.
Yes. So he's in Northridge going to school. He comes home. He's like, do you want to go to an open mic? I started doing comedy. And I was like, sure, where is it? He's like, it's behind your building.
And you've never done comedy?
Never done comedy.
Okay.
So we walk out my front door to the back of the building. There's this place. Did you ever go to the Hangar?
No.
Okay, so the hangar was this it was an airplane hangar in Atlanta that has just been abandoned, and a couple people kind of took it over, and they're like, we're gonna make this stage,
like a
and
venue,
yeah, and it was the best. It was
that
fucking
sounds
cool.
Sick.
It was, man. It was like this place where you could do anything you wanted. I ran a show with my mom at one point.
Fuck
there.
yeah.
But it was behind my apartment. And Michael and I go, there's a guy there.
And you've never done comedy up to this
Never.
point? Okay.
And I still didn't that night.
Okay.
Michael goes up, he does a set, and I was like, all right, this seems pretty
Did he
doable.
kill?
He did fine. It was like an open mic, and nobody knew him. And so they were, because he was living in LA at the time. So
I just figured with all the work he was putting in LA, I didn't know if you were looking up at him like, that's my friend.
Oh,
Fucking
I was.
murder.
I was like, this is the best.
Yeah.
This rocks. But there was another guy that shows up. He's on stage. He is tripping balls on acid, and he's talking to a guy in the crowd. He's like, I met this guy today. He's wearing a bubble suit for some reason. And I was like, this is open. I can do this.
Yeah.
And about a week later, I was at a hip hop show that my friend had put on.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you want to do stand up? Do you want to try stand up tonight? I was like, abso-fucking-lutely. And I'm blackout drunk
We're
at this
so
point.
blinded when we first start.
Yeah.
We're so like, yeah, I'll do anything.
I'll do anything. And this is my first time doing stand-up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I was
Now,
like, this
12
has to
years
work.
in now, people are like, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like,
Fuck
I'm all right.
no,
Yeah,
dude.
I'm okay.
I don't even do the I'm all right. I give a hard nah, dog.
I had to get taught. We were talking about this before the mics went live, and the listeners know, but I had to get talked into doing that roast.
Yeah.
I had to get talked into it because I was like, I don't do roast. And then I did. I go, this is why I don't fucking do roast.
It's brutal, dude. So yeah, I'm up there, and it was it went well until
Did it?
The very end was rough. But
Okay. What happened? Throw some N-bombs out or something?
No, but I definitely did an impersonation of my dick.
Okay.
And
Checks out.
and people were like, "What the?" And in my head, I was like, "This will be like performance art," and it was not.
Does that still happen to you today, where you think of a bit and you go, "Oh, this is going to change the landscape of comedy," and then you do it and
of
it bombs,
course.
and you're like, "Okay."
Dude, every thought I have is the most important thought that's ever been had.
I think that I did a bit one time where I was talking about my life trajectory and the Jacksonville Jaguars team trajectory is like the same.
Right.
I was like, I was like pre-law and playing college football, just like when the Jags first started, and I was an IB in high school.
Yeah.
Like when the Jags first came around, they were crushing people and stuff. And then they had a lull, then I started drinking. And then in 2017, they make it all the way to AFC Championship. That's me coming out of rehab. And I thought I had all these parallels and shit. And I thought it was so genius.
But you know what? In a one-man show situation, it is.
Yeah.
As a, it's...
And I do it on stage in Jacksonville.
Right.
And I do it in front of this kind of almost Riverside hipster crowd. And they're like, we don't really watch football. And I was like,
of course.
I'm going to go kill myself.
Of course. Yeah. There's no escape, dude. It's just...
So you talk about your dick. So the show doesn't end well, but you did pretty well the whole time.
And
then are you in?
Yeah, that was it. So I just started going to mics every day, and because it was behind my apartment.
So what hours are you working at the time to be able to afford the place, but still go get drunk and still do mics?
Yeah, I mean, dude. Well, it's like if you're a full blown alcoholic, you make it
figure
work.
it out,
Yeah,
yeah.
you make it work. So
I tell people all the time that about my trunk vodka. In the summertime in Florida. At the restaurant, I worked at early. So I would, between the breakfast and lunch rush, I would go out to my car, smoke a cigarette, and pull vodka out of a water bottle in my trunk and just start drinking it. And they go, yeah, but wasn't it hot and disgusting? And I go,
yeah. And honestly,
what am I going to do? Not get drunk?
I think that hot vodka works.
Yeah.
It's the only liquor where it's like if you drink it hot, it goes down easier.
It actually,
It
you
does.
can just bang it.
And I think it might just be that I got used to drinking it because I'd leave it in my glove compartment or whatever. Yeah, so it's just of course. Dude, a little one of those pocket flasks of Smirnoff, that was my shit, dude. Like $8 at the store.
That's the thing. I tell people all the time, they go, oh, do you have so much more money now that you're sober? And I go,
Fuck no, dude.
I spent $30 every 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
On a handle of Smirnoff and a pack of cigarettes.
Yep. And now I'm like, oh shit, now I have
Now, if I want to go out to eat, I'm like, oh, that's $120.
Yeah,
do you know what I didn't do when I was drinking every day?
Eat $120.
Eat $120.
I know, dude.
worth
I
of
know,
food.
and I looked great, but
So skinny.
very puffy in the face, but
Little
very
puffy,
skinny.
yeah.
But yeah, so the hours I was working because the Apple Store is a retail job.
Yeah.
So the best deal you could do, and you'd work 8-hour shifts. If you could get that 10 to 6 shift, that's
my
prime,
God,
man.
dude.
That fucking ruled. I would do 10 to 6, or I would do 7 to 4 sometimes, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's
If you could do a 7 to 4 into a 10 to 6,
yeah, man.
that's sick. Get
It's
off
good
at
shit.
4, drink all night, and then you don't have to be at work till 10 the next day.
Exactly. And you still have plenty of time to hit mics that you won't remember the next day. Because the
absolutely.
first couple years of doing comedy, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
I was so drunk.
Me too.
And it's like I wasn't comfortable getting on stage unless I was blackout drunk.
Hammered.
Yeah, I had to be. Otherwise, I was too afraid.
Did this ever happen where you would get so drunk that you're like, oh, I'll have a drink or two to calm the nerves, and then you just kept drinking,
Yes.
but your nerves never calmed?
Every single time.
Yeah, okay.
Every single time.
I thought it was crazy because I was like, I'm drinking enough to like kill someone,
Yes.
but like I still feel nervous.
Dude, because my go-to was always a shot and a beer. That was what I did. It's the most efficient way to get drunk for the least amount of money. And so you do that, and then it'd be like, well, fuck, I still have like 5 comics left. That's 25 minutes. I can probably get another 2 rounds in by that point. And if I have 3 rounds of shots and beers, I should be okay to get on stage. And then it's like 30 seconds before you go up, it's like, I'm still terrified.
Yeah, I'm still.
I still have that. That has never gone away for me, the stage fright.
Yeah.
I'm scared up until the moment I'm on stage.
It's
every
the same,
time.
yeah. And I relate it all the time because I played sports my whole life, so I always relate it to football, where like you're so nervous, and then once you get that first hit in, you go, "Oh, I've done this."
What
a
position
million
did you
times.
play?
I played offensive and defensive line through high school. Then I played fullback in college.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So it's always that thing where it's like, you know, if you're on special teams, you're on kickoff, and you got to kick off, like, you know, everyone's yelling, and you're
And they're
like
watching
heart's
you.
racing.
Yeah.
And, like the ball gets kicked, and you're running down the field, and in my head, because I can be violent, but I'm not a violent person.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like if I get pushed, I'll snap. But like I think that's true for most people.
Yeah.
But like to be honest with you, and I think I've said this on the show before, but I didn't like football when I first started playing. I was like, this fucking hurts.
Yeah.
And then I got used to it, and I was like, oh, but I can hurt other people. Like
Right.
this is fun. Now, I hit my growth spurt, and I got bigger, and I was like, oh, now this
Now
is
it's
fun.
good, yeah.
'Cause I don't feel like I'm getting the shit kicked out of me all the time.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with comedy. Is I'll go up on stage and I'll say that first line, and you know we all have that. We know it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And you say if it doesn't, then that's a whole other.
Oh, if
animal.
it doesn't, it's just like I might as well start a revolver right now. This is gonna be a long 30 minutes, dude.
But
Yeah.
it's the same thing with like sport. You get out there, you say your first bit, and then it hits, and you go, all right, I've done this a million times. But it took so long for me to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I still get nervous. And it's, there's a dumb line in that movie, Get Him to the Greek, where he goes, I'm nervous. And then he goes, but it's good to feel
Yes.
that way. Like it means we still care.
That's true, and that took me a long time to realize.
Yeah.
Is that you're only nervous because you care about it. If you
I care so much.
yeah, dude, yeah.
No, but
It's-
and I say that like half joking, but I wish I could be like some of these people, because I go to a lot of open mics, especially towards like the end of the year, because we're so busy at the restaurant. I
Yeah.
can't really book a lot of shows.
Sure.
And so I still love getting on stage. So I'll just go to open mics during the day
Right.
before I have to be at the restaurant. And it's one of those things where I see some of these comics where some of them are passed at certain places, but they still go to open mics to like work out
Yeah.
the shit because they're not in enough at the clubs to where they can do new shit and bomb.
Right.
And get away with it. So they'll go to mics, and they're just like, some of them are so like, don't give a fuck. And I'm like,
yeah.
I wish I could do that. And I say to myself, I'm gonna do that. But then I'll get on stage and I'll start like riffing. And if I don't get laughs, I'm like,
Let's just pivot.
I've been
right
doing
back.
this for 12 years, and I'll still panic and be like into a bit.
I think that's normal, though. I don't think that's crazy. Because like there are places where it's different, where my level of care has shifted.
Yeah.
Especially since quitting drinking, because
Yeah.
it's like I still care enough to put on a good show if it's something people paid money for.
Absolutely.
But if it's a free bar show, I am more than happy to like, I bring a notebook on stage and I'm like, here are 6 new things I'm working on right now. You didn't pay money for this. I don't feel guilty about it. As soon as you paid even $3 or $5, I'm like, fucking okay. Here are the hits.
That's another thing too that I've noticed is I obviously we're supposed to read the room and let the crowd dictate what we're doing. But there are sometimes, because in the South, and I know obviously I've done shows in Atlanta and Savannah and Georgia and then obviously Florida. So I know this is kind of a running theme, but in the South, it's more like, what do you got? Like, do your bits.
Yeah.
In New York, I've noticed it's very much an interactive.
Really?
Yeah,
I
fucking
feel
around.
the opposite.
Really?
Yes. I feel like the South, like, because I started as a road guy in the South, like going to the Carolinas and like Tennessee and shit.
Oh, yeah.
And like sports bars, where the whole deal is you just have to be up there for as long as you can if you want to get paid. And you just have to engage them enough to pay attention. They don't have to like it, but they have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that's how I got into stuff like interacting with a crowd. Whereas every time I do something here, it's shifted a little bit. But when I first got here, it was like jokes. No one wants crowd work. No one wants to be interacted with. And I was like, okay. And I think it made me a better writer, but I didn't have that coming up here.
See, that's so interesting that we had literally the opposite. And I think maybe a lot of it has to do with our styles, because I'm I'm very much like when I first got sober again and jumped back into comedy because I took like 3 years off. And then when I got back into it, I was telling stories about like DUIs and stuff. So it naturally in the South is engaged because a lot of people get in trouble and drink a lot. So it's naturally engaging. Like I'll be like, I've been arrested 8 times, and then people will cheer. Yeah. So it's almost like a natural.
It's because they want to see a redemption story in the South. Whereas in New York, I do think New York has this like cutthroat mentality. The audience has it too, and I don't think it's bad. It's just different.
Well, because I've done shows too. Like I've told this before, so I'll make it short. But I did a show at the Stand. It was my first time performing at the Stand, and I was actually booked, and I was on the website and everything. I was so excited, and I got up there and I was like, I'm just gonna do my material. I walked up and went right into material, and it went okay. Sure. Which is probably the worst it could have gone. Had I bombed, I would have been like, all right, I need to adjust.
Dude. I love a bomb. I love a kill. I hate a mediocre set.
Yeah. Yes. It went okay. And I got off and I could not figure out what the fuck went wrong. And someone came up to me after, the host, and she was like, hey, like, it's funny. Like, you're funny, obviously. That's why I put you on the show. But, you gotta interact. Like, you gotta talk to you can't just talk through them. You have to talk to them. And I'd never thought of it that way.
That is something, because, like, that's something that is uniquely New York. Because you're right. I do have a riff every time I go on stage. Like I'll watch a crowd before the person before me just to pick anybody out so I can just get a cheap shot in so they're engaged and they know that I'm present in this moment too. So they can at least believe that whatever I'm about to say is off the cuff. Yeah. And that does make a big difference.
When they could tell it was rehearsed, they wanted nothing to do with it.
Of course. Well, and I think that that's like a comedy thing in New York too. Like anytime someone comes from out of town and they're like, oh, I want to do cool shows, it's like, well, I can't help you there. But if you want to like, it's like if you want to come do this mic, don't do your A shit, dude. Just
and it's a totally different mindset too. Yes. Because I've done shows outside of New York since moving to New York.
That's the best part of it.
It's almost like fishing with dynamite.
It is.
You're like, this is fucking easy.
Dude, I've said this a million times, and I really believe the best part of living in New York is leaving. Yeah. Because every time you go, it's like all that progress you don't realize you're making is so apparent. Yep. Within seconds of stepping on stage, it's like, oh, yeah, dude, there is a reason to be in New York City doing comedy. I don't think that you need to be here to be successful and have a career here, but I do think it makes you a stronger comic.
It's made me so much better. I've done more writing since moving to New York. The 18 months I've been here, I've done more writing since originally getting sober the 3 years prior before moving here.
That makes total sense because you're just inundated in a different way with everything.
It's everyone you hang out with. It's everywhere you go. Like, because we associate so much with come on. All right. We associate so much with comics that it's very much like it's just one of those things where if I go, especially on my days off, like on days that I work, like I work tonight, so I always either do a podcast or I'll hit an open mic before I work. But on my days off, I'll try and hit like 4 or 5 open mics. And if I see the same comics at the same mics, which you do, I won't do the same stuff.
You can't. I
feel
get
like
scared.
A piece of shit.
I get really fucking scared to do, like, even if I do a show in the same venue, if it's a different show, I'm like, well, this is the same room. They've heard it. Yeah. And no one fucking knows.
And no one cares.
No one gives a shit. It's crazy. Like, my judgment of comics has disappeared since moving to New York.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in Atlanta, I was very cocky and like, there's a right and a wrong way to do this. And if you are repeating material...
That's my whole life.
Yeah, dog.
Everyone's like, you're so pretentious. I go, this is an art form.
I know. But then I got here and like really got humbled. And was like, yeah, it's like, okay, all right, you know what, dude? Because like now I'm like... Fuck, dude, if you want to do this as a hobby, have at it, man. I don't give a shit anymore.
Stephen Baker, a very funny Jacksonville comic who's a buddy of mine and been on the show, he said it like this. He goes, Brennan, you have to, because I used to be so pretentious.
Oh, dude,
like, if you got on stage drunk and was like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about, I'd literally yell from the back, then get the fuck off the stage.
Yep.
And Stephen came up to me when he was on the show once, and he goes, Brennan, comedy for you is your life.
Right.
But you have to understand that's just like karaoke. There are some people who go to karaoke and think this is how I practice to become a star. Then there's
that's a cool way of looking at it.
Some people who go to karaoke because they want to get drunk with their friends and get on stage.
Yep.
Comedy's the exact same thing.
That's so true.
And I was like,
it's true. And you know what, dude? I think that everybody does have a place in it now. Whereas, like, I used to be like, well, if you don't give a shit about this, if this is just something you do for fun, like, that's cute. Get the fuck out of my way, dude.
There's an improv studio right down the street.
Exactly, dude. That's 5 minutes of someone else's time.
I used to, up until probably a year ago, even when I first moved to New York, I was like that. And then, like you said, you're inundated with it so much that I'm just kind of like, oh, we all got stuff going on.
Exactly.
Like, we all got stuff happening.
Dude, and I would say this shit, and the entire time I'd be like, you're taking up space. I'd be shit can drunk. And it's like, And I would be the guy that's like, let me show you how it's done. And like I'd get on stage without anything to talk about and just be like, fucking, can you believe they let me drive a car? Like that was the whole thing. Like I would just be so pretentious, so cocky, and have nothing to deliver.
God.
Dude. Until I left. Okay, so I went to treatment a second time.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
Okay,
when
so
I was
you're living in the
23.
warehouse, you're doing the Apple store, and then you do that, you said, from 17 to 23. And then at 23, what happens to where?
At that point, I went through a breakup.
Yeah.
This is always how it happens, right? You know, I go through a breakup, and my drink.
Side note, real quick. Me and my longtime friend of the show, Savannah, her and I broke up.
Sure.
Shocking news, listeners. But
Fuck.
I'm not sure if they know yet.
Well,
but,
breaking. Here we go. I am sorry, man. That is the worst.
4 years. But
Yeah.
she's been on the show a couple of times. I'm not taking those down, by the way.
Dude,
Savannah,
I love.
so.
I just had my ex-girlfriend on my podcast.
Yeah, fuck
yeah.
But sorry, I got.
You're good.
I was just thinking about my life.
Right, I know.
How I'm homeless right
it's
now.
Daunting.
And everything that's going on.
Dude. I know. It's heavy.
No, but she. It's so interesting that you brought that up about just like the breakup thing. So I posted like a little like almost kind of like subtle dig.
Yeah.
That we were broken up. Because she was posting all this stuff like finally back to me and all this. And I was like, fuck off.
Yeah.
So I posted like looking for a new place. Who thought I'd take on the big bad city all by myself? And I immediately got not flooded. I had like 5 or 6 people call me. Because like you said, it's the breakups.
It's the breakups. It always
so
gets
many
you.
people. Are you okay?
Yep.
What's going on?
Yep.
What do you need? What my dad called, and I obviously love my dad to death. And it took so much longer for us. Like I was such a shit kid, and I regret that so much.
Me too.
Now in my 30s, I'm like, dude, you tried your best. All
That's
these
how
things,
I am with my parents now.
I was
dude.
like,
yeah.
all these things that I took for granted. Like I remember one time my dad and I didn't speak for years, and I screamed at him. I was like, there's a reason I moved out at 17. Like fuck off. And then I didn't talk to him for like years, and I feel so terrible. And like I apologize constantly for it. He goes, it's all right. Like we've moved on. But
I have the same thing with my dad.
He called me and he goes. He's like, where are you? And I go, I'm at home. He goes, what's going on? And I explained the situation to him, and he goes, well, you sound like you're in a good place.
Yeah.
He was like, I read that, and I immediately was terrified because of the things I used to do.
Of course, dude.
And I was like, oh, it never even crossed my mind to drink, but I was such a piece of shit that people were like, don't, no.
Yeah, it's crazy because I still revert back, dude. I have moments that are like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I would,
all the time.
Well, I go on autopilot and it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like I went through this breakup and without thinking, like I went to the bodega, I bought a tall boy beer, went back, put it in my fridge, and
Just not even thinking.
Didn't even think about it. And then my roommate comes home and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" Because he doesn't drink either.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my fucking god!" Of course, yeah. It's like the idea.
Muscle memory.
I don't think I'm gonna drink it, but it's like this is my like knee-jerk reaction. Right?
I would have a handle of vodka and I would drink half of it, and then I would have to go get another one just to know
because
I
dude,
had enough in the house.
Exactly what you're talking about. When Michael and I lived together, I mean, this is when it was like. So I move in with Michael after this breakup.
You're 23, you break up.
Yes,
and then what happens?
So I go to a treatment center that's inpatient this time.
You went on your own accord, or someone
sort
said
of.
something?
I go to a detox. So I go to the same treatment center I went to when I was 17, looking for a psychiatrist. That was the initial goal. I go through this breakup, and I was like, I know that I'm not handling this right. I'm blackout drunk all the time. I'm doing bad shit.
Mm-hmm.
I go for help, and they're like, so what are you doing to cope? I was like, well, I drink a lot. They're like, well, how much? I was like every day. They're like, how much? I was like, a lot. And they 1019 me. So they're like, well, you're not leaving.
Didn't see that coming.
Right. And 1019 is it's an involuntary hold.
Yeah.
So the doctor decides that I'm a danger to myself, and legally they can hold me for 72 hours.
Yep.
But
in
because
Florida, it's a 5150.
Oh, same shit.
It's the same thing.
So
Baker Act.
I get that, and because I had insurance because I was 23 and on my parents' plan, they keep me longer and longer.
Oh yeah,
And
42 days for me.
Yeah, dude, and it just keeps going. It's like, what the fuck? So I get out. First thing I do.
How long was it?
It was like a week and a half. It wasn't too long. But I get out.
72 hours really got stretched out.
Dog, and I'm watching people come in and out. Like I'm seeing.
What are you doing? So I love these little details. So you have a job. You have
Yes.
the warehouse place. What happened?
Well, at this point, I was living with this is 23. I had moved in with the girl that I was
that
dating.
you broke up with.
We broke up, but we're still living together, and it was not as I was drunk all the time, so it wasn't like she wouldn't.
What happened with work?
Were
you working at
I
the
was
restaurant at the
working.
time?
No, dude. So at that point, I was kind of on and off trying to make comedy work full time. At that point, I had picked up a job at Top Golf. That's
Okay.
right. I'm at Top Golf. I was there for 2 weeks before I go to this place. And
So
they
you
just
just
never,
didn't-
yeah,
yeah.
just did,
Okay.
yeah. And my whole thing was like, I'm living with my ex-girlfriend, and we weren't like, it wasn't like anger or whatever, but I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
I just could not.
That's
handle
the situation I'm in now, and luckily I've been sober long enough
Right.
to where I can handle it.
it. Right.
For now.
Well, and if you don't drink, you will be able to handle
But
it.
and I say it all the time, and this has happened once since the breakup. Obviously, we broke up a couple of weeks ago on Thanksgiving, so a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago, and this has happened one time since. But we know what our big triggers. I hate using that word, but
No,
we know
but
what
it's-
those things are.
Yeah.
And I go, there's going to be a night because we're not texting as much anymore. And I have a bit about it now where I go, yeah, I'm not bothering her, texting her all the time,
Right.
and she's not, asking me to come home. So we're actually doing better than ever. In fact,
Yeah,
I think I
yeah,
might
yeah.
date this girl.
Yeah.
But I was like, there's going to be a night where she gets off of work early because I know her schedule because we still have the dog we have
Right.
to take care of. So I know her work schedule, and she's going to get off of work early, think I got the dog covered, and then she's going to go out with her friends, and I'm not going to know anything. And then she's not going to come home till 4 a.m. And it's going to be that time between when I know she gets off work to that when she
That's
gets
the
home
worst.
that I'm just going to sit in it. And it has happened.
That's
since-
what I was dealing
and I
with.
could see it coming.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm going to get so angry.
Yep.
But I'm not going to take it out on the dog. What
It's
am I
not-
going to not walk the dog?
Of
Like,
course.
I'm not going to do
well,
that.
and it's not her fault.
Yeah.
Too. Like, because I remember the reason it like really spiraled, and I was like, I have to get help. Was we shared a computer at the time, like the lady and I, and I was.
I already know what's coming.
Well, her texts start popping up.
That's what I was
and
gonna
I'm
say.
like, fuck, this is a guy that she used to hook up with, whatever. And we're broken up. It is well within her right to go
Yeah.
on dates and shit, and I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
I
I
could not
can't.
handle it.
I can't either. When I
Yeah.
see, I had to mute her on all social media,
course.
and I told her I muted her.
Of course.
And she goes, "Why would you do that?" And I go, "Because I'm looking at dudes in your comments, like
Yep.
when you're posting shit like, oh, finally back to me. Dudes are like in
I
all
know.
of your. I was like, I can't fucking see that.
It's brutal.
I was
and
like, I might be sober and I might be like somewhat balanced. I'm still a fucking psycho.
Yeah, dude. Well, you're a person.
Yeah.
And by default, you have emotions.
That's what I was gonna say. She's not a very emotional person. I'm overly emotional.
Yeah. Shocker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
dude. Right.
The crazy comic. You have too many
Well,
emotions.
Right. The drunk who can't keep it
Yeah,
together.
right?
Yeah.
So what happens? So you guys are living together. You see the
Yeah.
computer stuff, and you're like, I gotta figure something
Yeah.
out.
So I'm in this treatment center at this point,
Mhm.
and I kind of get the lay of the land. Like I'm like, I think I know how to, because that's my first instinct is always, how do I become like passable in here where I can do the least amount of work
Yep.
and still get what I need out of this? And I did. And so I was like, well, I was doing comedy at this point. I know how to work a room.
Yeah.
So I'm just working fucking people in this place. I'm like
Tell people
trading
all
shit
the time.
Yeah, dude.
We can be incredibly charming when we
Dude,
want to.
exactly. I'm like getting people to give me their Xanax and shit. I'm like, I can fucking handle this place.
It's the same thing in jail.
Of course, it's
Just-
the
yeah.
exact yes. And a lot
Walk
of
in,
these
start
people,
cracking jokes, start like zinging people,
Yep.
and they're like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Yup, and this is like these are a lot of people that are avoiding jail time by doing this
Yeah.
detox, whatever. So I'm like killing in here, and I leave after like a week and a half and being like, okay, something should change. But not today.
Yeah.
So I go to Star Bar the day, which is like the big
Star
show
Bar,
on
oh
Monday.
yeah.
I get out. The host gives me a spot. I call him from the hospital. I'm like, hey, man, I'm getting out of a detox center. I would love 5 minutes. Like, come on, do 10. And like, I go on stage. I lift a drink and I cut my fucking zip ties out of my shoes on stage. I think it's like really powerful shit. And
Yeah.
I look back on it like, this would have been terrifying. If I saw somebody do this as an audience member, I would be so concerned for their well-being. Like, this is horrific to do to people. And again, it's a free show. Who gives a fuck? But I'm like just losing it. And so I was like quickly after that, though, I start going back to meetings.
Yeah.
And this time I was like, I'm going to do it for real. And so I did get sober that time. I had like 3-4 months at this point. I had a sponsor I really liked. I had like a good home group and shit. But I go to a comedy festival in Ohio.
Mhm.
And this is one the year before.
Where at? Cleveland?
Columbus.
Okay.
The year before, I was a problem.
Yeah.
I have an idea for how to win a comedy festival, whether or not it's a competition. If you become so drunk that you're an issue, like people are like, "Who's that guy that's passed out at the bar?" Like, the fine line you have to write is you can't bother people.
Yeah.
You just have to be drunk and in public. That's the limit. And then if you can kill when you do your set, people already remember who you are because
Yep.
you're that
You give
guy.
them a reason.
And then it's like, oh, fuck, but he can deliver. And so I come back the next year. And man, we're at this bar. They're doing pictures of Moscow mules. And I was like, fuck it. All right, I think I can do one. 6 later, I'm like, okay, maybe I can't.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I wound up dating the girl that bartended there. She lived in New York. Years later, we
Yeah.
go out on a date, and I was like, oh, fuck, you're the lady that served me the drink that I relapsed on. And she was very cool about it. But anyways, like, that kind of kicks back the whole, like, well, I don't think I can get sober.
Yeah.
And I really didn't believe that. And then
There's a time in my life too where, and I've talked about this openly with my sponsor, where because of all the concussions and the brain damage and stuff, and just like my emotional instability.
Yeah.
There are times where I'd call, because I would call him crying, like I want to get sober so bad, and I'd do steps 1, 2, and 3 with him, and I would mean it. When I would get on my knees, I would mean it.
Of course.
I meant it. And then 2 weeks later, I'd be drunk again.
That's always how it goes, man. And
he said it. He goes, I this last time almost dying and ended up being in the hospital and like literally on the cusp of being told by an ER doctor, like, we see this all the time. People don't wake up. Like, you should be dead.
Yeah.
And like that kind of like kicked me where I was like, fuck.
Well, dude, it's like I don't do program stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I've got my own thing. It works and I do it. But like, yeah,
as long as it works,
of
man.
course. And I come from the program where I do believe like a lot of the stuff that like the R&R shit, like the whole, relapse is a part of recovery.
Yep.
I really believe that. I believe in all of the like, the gratitude shit.
Yeah.
Like, we are very lucky to be sober.
I called my sponsor when all this was happening with Savannah, and at first I called him and he goes, "You sound like you're doing pretty well."
Yeah.
And I think I was in shock because we had just had the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think I was in shock. I was like, yeah, this is what's best for both of us. We've kind of fallen out of love a long time ago. We were just kind of, moving forward. And then a week later I called him and I was like, I don't have a place to live.
Right.
Like, and obviously I'm on the lease. So like, she's not kicking me out, but she's like, I can take over the rent if this isn't good for you. Cause she's cold and emotionless, so she doesn't care if I'm.
Well, and it isn't good for you to be there.
But yeah, it's also not good for me to be there. So I was like, okay, I'll find a place, no problem. And I call him. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what. And I was spiraling. And then he goes, "Well, do you have a place to sleep tonight?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, do you have like food? Do you have money?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got I got plenty of money because work is so busy." And he goes, "So, but you're not like actually going to be homeless. Like she's not going to actually kick you out until you find a place." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "What the fuck are you bothering me for?"
I know,
and I was
dude.
like, "You piece of shit."
Well, it's what it takes, man. That's the whole journaling thing.
Yeah.
It's like, because I wind up writing at like 1 a.m. if I don't have anybody to call.
Yeah.
It's like that journaling takes you out of it where you can actually see like, okay, yes, I do have a place to stay. I do have some money in my pocket.
Yeah.
I'll be okay tonight.
Yeah.
It's that whole 1 day at a time thing.
And it's
real.
It's a real
It's
thing.
a real thing, man.
People all the time, people I sponsor, people I work with, they're always like, "Yeah, but I lost my job. What am I going to do about rent?" I'm like, it's the second. Like,
Yeah.
You already paid rent for this month.
Yeah,
Like,
you're fine.
Don't
You're
worry about
fine.
it.
It's just,
Let's get through today.
Right. Well, that's the whole alcoholic mindset of, okay, well, things aren't going well for me. I need to burden everybody with it and let them know I'm having a tough time. Like, I do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I went through a breakup and
That's
I was
why
like,
have you heard my set? That's my whole set.
yeah, dude. It's like, how many people can I bother with my bullshit that they are just like, in the grand scheme of things, like, I remember going through a breakup not long ago and being like, everything's falling apart. This is a disaster. I don't know what's going on. And someone's like, "Dog, do you see what's going on all around you? You'll be fine. Like, you'll be okay, dog.
Yeah.
Do you live in Ukraine? You're going to be okay."
Yeah, yeah. That's the other thing too. Is like people, because we have such blinders on because this is what we do. This is what we're doing. And I remember I talked to those same people that called me like in a panic, thinking I was going to relapse. And I remember some of them were like, "All right, so, are you going to get a U-Haul? You want to move back home? You can move in with your grandma. You can move in with your uncle. You can move in with your dad. You can move in with anybody and just live rent-free and, like, figure it out." And in my head, I was like, I didn't even think.
It's always an option.
I never even thought. But that's what I'm saying. Is like, I never even thought.
No, because if
it's like, I'm here. I worked my fucking ass off to get to New York to do comedy. I'm not leaving.
Well, and beyond that, dude, there's a part of me that I wouldn't be shocked if you do this too, where it's like, I don't want to take that option because I need everybody to see how much I'm suffering.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't even put that together
of
until
course,
you just said
dude,
that.
It's like, if people don't see
I'd rather call you and bitch about like me trying to find an apartment.
But God forbid you offer help, and then it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying, dude. I just need you to listen. People are like, fuck you, man. Like, there are solutions. So many solutions.
God forbid you offer help.
It's true, man.
No, I completely agree. I never even thought of that until you just said it, because there are a couple people that I spoke with and they go, "Well, what do you need? Do you need me to like co-sign something for you? Do you need me to send you some money?" And I go, "No, that's not why I'm calling."
No, I'm calling because I want you to hear me bitch.
Yeah, I don't need a favor. I want you to just listen.
Exactly, dude. And it's like, I think people, when you go through something traumatic, are usually like, all right, I'm going to give you like a week or two of like,
Yeah.
wallow, get your shit out, do your thing. Things are hard. Agreed. But after that, it's like, shut the fuck up, dude.
There's a older movie. You might know it, though. It's called Out Cold, the snowboarder
Oh, of
movie.
course. Yeah.
And there's a line in it. It goes, 1 week of mourning for every 6 months you were together.
That's fair.
I've literally lived my every breakup by that rule.
I think that's a good way to do it. I can't follow it, but I
No,
think
at all.
it's a good way to do it.
When me and my ex-fiance first broke up, I literally was like getting hammered every day.
Right.
And I was living by that. I go, well, we were together for 4 years, which means I get 2 months of getting fucked up. Then after 2 months, I was like, well, we were engaged to be married, so that buys me one more
Dude,
month.
how many concessions can you make?
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. And then, someone will be like, yeah, but you were drinking every day for 6 years before that. It's
that's
like,
what happened.
Yeah, dog. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, the love of my life left me.
Yeah. Oh, you wonder why, huh? Yeah, it's
Maybe this has something to do with it.
Yeah, man. And it keeps spiraling, and it doesn't. And it's like you can see because all right, so the Scotland.
Yeah.
Thing. So.
Wait, before we get into
yeah.
Scotland, so what ends up happening? Did you moved out, you found a place at 20?
Yeah,
so you get out of rehab, you go back to the house, like what happened?
I move in with Michael and 4 other guys.
Okay.
4? No, 3 other guys. So there are 5 of us in the apartment.
And this is in
Atlanta.
Okay.
So we're in East Atlanta Village. We have this sick fucking house. We're doing shows out of it, but the whole time I'm partying and
You are partying.
Yeah, hard. So I had a lot of time drinking in New York too, and that's when it got like worse.
That's what Michael said too.
Yeah, it was the freedom of not having to worry about a ride or driving. Really,
I have a whole bit about it
changes
where
everything.
like people walk on the subway and they see the homeless guy drinking out of the brown paper bag and they go, "Man, I feel so bad for him." And in my head, I go, "This guy's never gonna get
He's
a
never
DUI.
going to DUI, dude.
Never.
It's the dream.
This is genius."
Yes, I mean it's hard. It's hard to understand, and also like this city moves fast.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of ways to like relax and unwind
At all.
No, and so if you're gonna drink, like you might as well just go all out.
Yeah, fuck it.
So I had a lot of shit where like I would fall asleep on the subway all the time and like get robbed.
I wanted that because you sent me that. So what happened with that?
Oh, well, this is not just one time.
Yeah,
this
you
is
said like 5 times.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
They call it getting lushed, where you pass out on the train, someone will come and cut your pockets and take your wallet.
Okay.
So I still have pants that are just like they don't have back pockets anymore because someone came out, snipped them all, and just took my wallet. I have fanny packs that were broken, backpacks that are just snipped, and like that just became.
And you were just hammered and you just passed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would there were a couple times when I lived in Bushwick where I would get on the A train or whatever, and I would wind up on Rockaway Beach and be like, well, fuck, I'm already here. I don't have a phone. I don't have a wallet. I might as well go dip a toe in the water. This is the only like relief I have.
Yeah.
And that just becomes such a common part of your existence where it's like, well, if I'm going to maintain this
So
lifestyle.
did you stop carrying cash and stuff on you?
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
yeah.
And I would make sure that I just didn't have money all the time. And so
Purposely spent all my money. So no one
yeah,
could take
it's
it.
crazy. And like, that's not a realistic way to live.
At all.
Everybody's like, why don't you just stop doing that? It's like, well, I can't stop doing that.
I'm not gonna-
So I'm just going to find every solution to that problem except the one that works.
We're so not. I'm not only saying this because we are comedians, but we're so creative. Alcoholics in general are so creative.
Yes.
It's like you said, like why don't you just not? Like I used to figure out ways to like sneak booze into work so I could drink while I was working, and people are like, why don't you just not drink at work? And I go,
What the fuck are you talking
yeah,
about?
like that's not even like what?
Yeah, it's not an
Like
option.
why would I not drink at work?
Right. Then there's so many different things where it's just like you find excuses and you find ways to make yourself not seem like the bad guy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like you are.
Oh,
it's
100%.
always you.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
and
always
it's always you. It has to be because that's the reason it doesn't get fixed.
It's the only common denominator.
Right. And so it would be shit like getting robbed or like falling asleep at a bus stop or falling asleep on a gutter. Like I fell asleep on sidewalks, especially in Atlanta. Like,
Yeah.
and you know, the whole justification was like, well, I'm doing comedy. This is part of it. And it's like, it's not.
It's not.
It's really not. And you find the people that do get fucked up every day doing stand-up and you're like, well, they're doing it. So
Yep.
that means that's how this goes. And it's just not true.
Well, and especially once we get older, because I want to go back to the Scotland thing, but I say it all the time. Doomed youth is, and I heard it in a movie, doomed youth is very romantic.
Yes.
Fucking, what is it? Die young, leave a pretty corpse, all that kind of stuff. It's so romantic. But the reason I got sober was because the last time I almost died, I was in my 30s.
Yes.
And doom middle age is just sad.
It's tough, dude.
It's so like,
Yeah.
what are we doing, man? Like, I'm not all like ripped and tatted and like, oh, whatever. I'm
Yeah.
fucking 24. I don't care. It's like, I'm in my 30s. Like my twin sister has a mortgage and kids and a husband, and I'm like, no, we're still living the dream, baby.
And the dream just like every day becomes more and more like a nightmare. Yeah, dude, it's a disaster, and you just like. But you tell yourself, like, this is okay because this is all in pursuit of the goal of creativity or whatever.
Yep.
These are my Hemingway years, man. And it's like, yeah, but you've been doing this for 20. It's like, and don't forget, he shot himself. Like, yeah, dog. It's, I would tell myself that legitimately. Like, I would wake up out of a blackout.
I would say it and mean it. Yeah.
And I would have scribbled, these are your Hemingway years. And it's like, this is not a realistic way to live your life. And if you're lucky enough to survive and then quit, like, you got to be grateful for it.
Absolutely.
Because, like, I really, the amount of second chances I've had is insane.
And it's crazy to me. It's just the small example I was talking about earlier. Like, me and my dad have a fantastic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And there were points in time where I would get hammered and just let him have it.
Oh, dude.
And at the time, I felt justified.
Oh,
and
yeah,
now looking
man.
back on it, I'm like, you dumb motherfucker.
Right.
You piece of shit.
That's how I feel with my dad, too.
Yeah.
Same
And
shit.
I like I said earlier, I'm like, I am so, and he goes, it's like,
It's okay.
Drop it.
Yeah. It would be a lot easier if you forgot.
If you let it go.
Yeah. I don't think about this anymore.
At all.
I'm your father. But yeah, man, I'm like, but that's the thing is, if you want to drink as a career, you find ways to make that work. And like, that's since I was a kid. And like, you can see the patterns now where it's like, oh yeah, of course you were going to be an alcoholic.
Yep.
Like, so Scotland.
Yeah.
This
is in high school.
This is in high school. Michael and I, did he tell you that he got me in trouble? Good. Okay. So let me give you what actually happens. Michael and I are at the Fringe Festival in
Yeah,
Edinburgh.
because so to catch everyone up, if you didn't listen to Michael's podcast, you guys went to a performing arts high school?
Yes, we went to a public school in Atlanta, but it was a performing arts high school. They went the year before I got there with a show called Urinetown, and it blew everyone away. They got invited back 2 years later, and that's when I was there.
Yeah.
So, and the whole deal is the teachers are like, you can go drink there. Don't worry.
Because you guys were 17 at the time, right?
Yeah,
16, 17.
Must have been 17. 16. I was 16. Michael was probably 17.
Okay.
The drinking age is 18 there. So we're not legally allowed to drink, but the teachers are like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You'll be all right. And so we're like, all right, fuck it.
What didn't, if I'm remembering correctly, didn't the teacher say you guys can have a couple of drinks, just don't get like hammered?
They would say that, and then,
Okay.
I would smoke pot with my drama teacher.
Yeah,
and
there
he'd
you
be
go,
like,
yeah.
fucking just do what you want, man.
Yeah.
And like,
Be free.
be cool, dude.
These are your Hemingway years.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so Michael and I immediately, we touch down. First thing we do is like, well, there's a bar in our hostel in London. We flew into London. We get drunk there, and we're like, okay, we're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And we just keep getting drunk, and we get to Scotland a couple days in. Me, Michael, and another friend of ours are in my room drinking like the handle of like the equivalent of like Mr. Boston's vodka, like really cheap, shitty shit. And we're getting drunk. And I remember being like, Michael, you are wasted. I'm going to stay in here because I'm already in my room. You just got to go to your room, dude. Don't go
to
anywhere
bed,
else.
go to your
We're
room.
going to get in trouble. And he's like, I got you. So I'm in my room.
I could just see him saying that too.
No, not even I got you. He's like getting indignant with me. Like,
Oh, is he?
Yeah, because that's Michael. He gets drunk and he's like, fuck you. I know what to do. I can handle myself. I will.
I've never seen him drunk.
Oh,
I've only
yeah,
seen sober
dude.
Michael.
He gets really like, you trying to tell me what to do? And like, it's like, yeah, dog. And so he leaves. We're all in these single
I can
rooms.
see him doing it too.
Yeah, man. And I get
Just that little frame. What?
dude,
What?
and he was short at this point. He was short and fat. It was awesome. And I'm shit can drunk. I get butt naked in my room. I'm like, I'm going to put on some tunes. I'm going to go to sleep. This is great. And like an hour and a half later, I just hear like a on my door, and I'm drunk. I figure it's Michael or one of my friends. I'm like, who is it? And I just hear like, open the door. I open the door. It's my
Still
tech
naked?
director. Oh yeah. And he looks at me. He's like, put some fucking clothes on. And then he comes into the room as I'm getting dressed. I'm putting on some flip flops. Where he's like, you don't need shoes where we're going. And I was like, what are you? I literally said to him, are you taking me swimming? And it's like, dude, it's like 1 a.m. I'm hammered drunk. I'm in these like maroon gym shorts. I remember these shorts so well. A blue shirt. I'm like fucking like, all right. I know that I'm fucked. I don't know what happened yet. And I'm trying not to, like, in my head, it's like, don't give them anything.
Yeah.
Just be cool and maybe you'll get out of this. And I remember they walked me to like the kitchen area of this university that we're staying in.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Michael sitting on the ground. He's also in gym shorts. And I'm like, oh no. And he's looking up at me like, I am so sorry, dude.
Oh no.
And immediately I know what's happened. And I'm like, all right, you might still be able to get out of this. And because I was like, because if you go home, you're not going to be able to drink. The drinking age is 21. You need to stay here and party, dude.
Drink as much as possible.
So I get in. It's all of the teachers and chaperones. And they're like, so what'd you do tonight? And I was like, well, I went to see a few shows. I went back to the hotel, whatever. I just kind of had an easy night. They were like, huh. I was like, what's up? They were like, well, we just, we heard that, some people were drinking, so we're looking to see what happened. And I was like, well, yeah, no, not me. and they're like, well, you look pretty drunk. And I was like, uh-huh. Well, I don't know. I'm just tired. I guess I just got woken up. And they're like, Michael Rowland said he was with you. I was like, and what did he say he was doing?
What did Michael Rowland have to say about that?
They're like, well, Michael's pretty drunk. And I was like, uh-huh. And they're like, were you drinking with him? And I knew it. This was, uh-huh. They're like, you look pretty drunk. And I'll never forget this looking at, his name was Kimmel. I was like, Mr. Kimmel, I'm fucking wasted. And at this point, they're like, Jesus Christ. And so they shepherd us in. It's Michael and I and these other two guys that are there. Michael and this other guy had a big falling out earlier. I don't want to tell Michael's story at this part, but it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, watching them try and reconcile while being hammered drunk. Yeah, man. And so at the end of the day,
you're a good guy. No, you're a good guy.
You want to be my friend? Kiss me if you want to be my friend. And
kiss me on the mouth.
That was exactly what happened. So, so at this point, they send us all home. Like, dude, it was huge. Like, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution wrote about it.
Did hear
Jay
about that.
Leno talked about it in a monologue at one point. Like, the news is covering it, and we're all in this like.
They sent everyone home, right?
No, 26 or something. More than half of the cast got sent home.
Okay,
but the rest of them got to stay.
Okay,
and they didn't get to do the show anymore.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
They were no longer doing the show.
And they were pissed, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I remember being like, so they put us on lockdown for like 2 or 3 days while they're trying to figure out what to do with us. And I just remember they taped the doors and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being like, well, they're not going to send me home twice. So I kept sneaking out and just partying.
Oh, yeah, because what are they going to do?
Yeah, and like I'm like chain smoking cigarettes in front of teachers, like being really fucking defiant. Like, what are you going to do? What are you
You're
gonna
already
do?
sending me home, so fuck it.
Exactly. And I'm just looking at everybody else in lockdown, like staring out their windows, like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, well, dude, we're going to enjoy this while we have it. But at that point, you're like persona non grata. No one wants to hang out with you.
No one.
You're troubled. They're going to get in trouble if they're with you. So, so it's like, yeah, I had like 3 days by myself in Edinburgh at 16 years old, just partying, hanging out with locals, being like, yeah, I'm getting sent home, dude.
Have you been back since?
No, I'm dying to. Michael has promised me since we were 16 that he was going to take me back, and he has not delivered. Michael, if you're listening, you have not delivered on this, and I have not forgotten.
Dude, you got to get back to the Fringe Festival.
I know, dude. I'm dying to go back. I don't want to perform there ever again.
Yeah,
but
just
I would love to go.
hang out.
Yeah, man, and like do it right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man. It's like that's the kind of shit though. In your head, it's always like, well, I can weasel my way out, and 9 times out of 10, you probably can.
The problem is we do get out of those situations from time to time,
and it enforces that behavior.
No, we got to go soon, but this is something I wanted to run by you. This is something I've noticed. And I've talked about this, especially now in the breakup and everything, where in my life, I don't know if it's the comic in me or just the child of divorce or like the alcoholic in me, but I tend to be better in situations where, like you in Edinburgh, where everything's falling, like when everything's falling apart.
I'm comfortable.
I'm so comfortable in chaos.
Yes.
And people go, oh, that's because you're a good leader. And I don't know if that's what, I just am comfortable
I mean,
here.
maybe that's true, but realistically, it's like I said this.
That's why I love working in restaurants. 'Cause
Yes,
when everything's
it's
falling
always-
apart, I'm
yes.
like, oh, I'm on it, baby.
Exactly,
Let's go.
dude.
Like,
and
fucking move. I'll take over Expo. Let's get this food out.
man.
Like,
hands,
yeah,
baby.
Let's go.
I said that to a friend of mine who's in recovery. I was like, dude, you know what? It's not that I miss drinking. I miss the chaos.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain that to somebody that doesn't have that
It's
in
so,
them.
yeah.
That it's like, no. Yes, my life was falling apart, but it was undeniably the most fun I have ever had.
Well, and the other thing, too, not only was it the most fun, but I was the most productive.
Yes.
I could literally be sober for 6 months, get everything back, and shatter it with a hammer.
Yes.
And get it back in 3 to 6 months.
Totally.
Just
Well,
be back.
because you make so many concessions to live your life when you're that drunk.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, waking up at 6 a.m. to go to the Apple store and just understanding like the reality is I'm going to wake up drunk every day. And that's just what it is.
That's just what it is.
That's what it is, and that's not going to change.
And it blows my mind now because I talk to people and they go, wait, how many podcasts do you have? And I go, 3. And they go, well, when's your one-man show? And I go, January 30th.
Yeah.
And they go, well, how are you doing that? And I go, I'm doing it.
Yes.
I'm funding it. I'm doing all the rehearsals. I've paid for the videography crew, the theater I rented out. Like I do all that. And they're like, how? Like, and you're still doing mics? And I go, yeah. And they go, well, how do you make money? And I go, oh, I also have a full-time job.
Right.
And they're like, what the fuck? And I go, no.
This is the only way this can happen.
This is the only way this works. Because there was a time where I would be just as busy, but it was trying to get drunk, being drunk, trying to fucking drive, home. I used to have to do shots in the morning to steady my hands to drive to work.
Yeah,
So
dude.
it's like, this is easy.
This
is cake.
It is so hard to explain that to somebody. Like the planning that I went through to make sure that I was going to be drunk all day is so much harder than like, oh yeah, I can just build the calendar.
Yeah.
It's like, this is fine, dude.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, Brad. This was so much fun. I know we didn't do any of the stories I sent you. I'm sorry.
I know, but we did Scotland and then 2 treatment centers we got to talk about.
Sure. I forgot about that when you initially asked.
Love it.
Perfect. Dude.
Plug everything one more time.
Yes.
Let everybody know.
So first and foremost, listen to In the Minivan. Every Tuesday we drop episodes at MaxFine_ on Twitter and Instagram. And then January 12th and 13th at Wisecrackers Comedy Club in Wilkes Barre.
Perfect. Thank
yeah.
you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy on all social media. BrennanTComedy.com. Get your tickets for the one-man show, also titled Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. Comics look at life, near-death, recovery, and redemption. Coming to a theater near you. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Oh, subscribe on Patreon. And get your merch. Beautiful.
Hell yeah, dude.
We're out.